Do you ever wonder why the recruiter always seems to represent the candidate, even though you're the one footing the bill? This is David Stephan Patterson. I'm the SAP recruiter, and today I want to share with you some insights into picking a search firm that will 100% ruffle a lot of recruiters' feathers. Now, as someone who's been in the industry for about 2 decades now, and who's also been one of the most sought after recruiting trainers in the business, feel free to look me up, I can unequivocally say that most of the recruitment industry is, quite frankly, set up to see you fail. You see, do you ever wonder why every search firm says they have a proprietary recruitment process when they all look the same? I mean, one look at their process listed on their website or their trifold brochures will tell you that you're being underserved by a cookie-cutter monkey-see, monkey-do agencies. Now, every search firm has the same pitch, the same proprietary process, the same guarantee. Quite frankly, they are indistinguishable from each other, and your candidates can see that. So, for example, every search firm specializes into really digging into the culture of their clients. No, the real truth is they submit anyone who comes close to meeting the basic requirements. Or how about this one? Every search firm only works in the top fill-in-the-blank percentage of candidates. Or, for example, every search firm has a combined fill-in-the-blank years of industry experience, which, by the way, is a meaningless stat. If you add up a room full of rookie recruiters, the number you get doesn't tell you anything about their effectiveness. Or how about this one? Every firm passionately cares about their clients and their candidate success, which is not true. Most firms are KPI driven, and they're banking on their fill percentages to keep afloat, which is why they submit your star candidate to every other client that they have. Now, if all those things I said were true, so why do you get the same C-player candidates over and over and over again who apply to the same job postings your agencies copy and paste from your own career site? Quite frankly, it's because they're trying to sell you a commoditized service at a premium price, which is why the moment you push back on their high fees, they fold every time. It's because they know you can go right down the road and get the same thing for cheaper. They just want to get your SAP role and 9 other similar positions up on the board because they know they'll close 1 out of 10. Simply put, they're candidate brokers and not recruiters. And quite frankly, that doesn't serve you, nor does it serve their candidates. And it gives the recruitment industry a bad name. Unfortunately, it also creates a multitude of problems for you. Now, be honest, the traditional contingency model is really just based on volume and speed, and it's lacking in quality. Like I said before, it's KPI driven and based on numbers. Recruiters typically have to work on 10 roles just to fill 1, which means they're working for free 90% of the time. So this model, in essence, encourages recruiters to act more like candidate brokers rather than recruiting agents working for their clients. You see, they're incentivized to gather the best candidates that they can easily get, and usually they're active candidates, the ones that are actively looking, instead of headhunting top-performing talent directly from your competitors. And then they market those candidates to as many companies as possible to try to earn a fee and really to spread the risk. And that includes you and your competitors. So is it no wonder when I do pose that question to hiring executives, why do the recruiters represent the candidates, but you're the one footing the bill? It always gives them pause. So think about that. And if you've ever asked yourself that question, or even if you haven't, but now that I've posed the question, you are thinking that, I'm going to solve that problem for you right now. Because after close to 20 years in the search business and seeing the inside operations of hundreds of search firms as a trainer, believe me, I know what separates a great firm from all the bad ones. And there are great ones out there. but you have to find them and you have to vet them. So I'm going to show you how to properly vet a search firm, because it doesn't matter how in-depth your hiring process is. If you don't have the right inputs, you will not get the right outputs, right? Programmers know this. GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And unfortunately, finding the right firm can be terribly difficult. There are thousands of search firms. There's 100,000 recruiters in the US alone. And of course, it seems like every single one of them is pounding down your door in your voicemail, in your email inbox. They're messaging you on LinkedIn. So is it any wonder why recruiters are the largest demographic on LinkedIn by a landslide? There are so many recruiters on there, and they're all desperate to get your opening up on the board so they can have a 10% chance of filling it. So with that said, here are some questions that you should be asking every single search firm before you let them recruit on your next SAP rockstar. Now, I'm going to get some hate mail from recruiters for this, but here goes. So the first thing you should ask are, what are your metrics? Simple. You want to find out what percentage of the time they successfully complete a search. Now, the vast majority of contingency search firms average between 10 to 20%, 20 being the high end. Now, when you point blank ask a contingency recruiter this, oftentimes, if they're not being honest with you, they'll tell you 30, 40, 50%. That just simply isn't true. So if you hear this number, it's likely the rest of these numbers are going to be fudged, okay? Now, if you work with an engaged firm, where you do pay a money down deposit on a search before you engage their services, you're typically going to see about an 80 to 90% range. No one's ever at 100%. You also want to ask what their interview to placement ratio is. Now, this can vary pretty widely, but when comparing firms, it is a pretty good metric to use. You can also assess their metrics of passive candidate to active candidate placed, like that ratio, right? And if you want that skewed towards the passive side, you can ask what their stick rate is, which means the percentage of placed candidates still employed after 2 years. Now, you also want to find out what their search process looks like. You want them to describe it in detail. When I first got into this business, my first recruiting trainer gave me some very bad advice. I was told to never show our clients what our process really looked like, to keep what we did a mystery. Now, that advice never really sat well with me. I've always been of the mind that we should open the hood up for our clients and to show our clients exactly what we do and how we do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't see the value in what we do if all we do is show up with a stack of resumes. So ask to see the recruitment process in detail, excruciating detail. Ask them, how are you going to map out the entire market? And once every potential candidate is mapped, how are you going to determine who the top performers are? What's going to be your criteria? How are you going to engage these candidates? Is it going to be digital engagement, analog engagement, or both? Where are all their distribution channels? How are they going to assess interested candidates? What technical questions will they ask? What's their selection process? What's going to be their knockout criteria? Do they employ video interviewing? And if so, at what point in the process? What about test drives? Do they employ test drives? Do they help you design test drives yourself? Or do they even know what a working interview is? All right, and how will they present shortlisted candidates to you? How will they ensure that the candidate is onboarded correctly? How are they going to make sure that they're retained even after the guarantee period? You also want to ask what the metrics of the SAP market is in their city. You see, the best way to assess if a recruiter who actually says they're a specialist is really a specialist is ask them what detailed questions, or ask them detailed questions about their local SAP market. So for example, if you're looking for an SAP HANA analytics manager in Philadelphia, ask them how many people approximately would fit the bill in Philadelphia. And don't just let them tell you a number. Have them send you a screenshot from their database showing that number. Obviously, there's no really right or wrong answer here, but they should at least be able to map the market and have the data readily available. Now, with that said, please do not play gotcha and ask a recruiter to describe technical concepts only a developer would know. I mean, it's okay to ask them SAP-specific questions, but asking a recruiter how data is stored in a cluster table is not how you determine the effectiveness of a recruiter, okay? Now, also ask if they have an off-limits list, and if so, what companies are on that list. You see, recruiters aren't allowed to recruit from their client companies, usually for about a year or two after their last placement with them. Now, the longer the off-limits list, the less options you have available to you to find your next rock star. That's a reason why the larger firms are not necessarily the best firms to work with, because they've got an off-limits list a mile long. Now, if they don't have an off-limits list, however, be careful, because that means you're not on it, even if you're a client. All right? Now, also ask, how are they going to sell you, your company, and your opportunity? More to the point, how will they sell your employer value proposition? Because quite frankly, there's a lot of white noise out there, and it's increasing year after year after year. And so you need a compelling invitation to attract a real bona fide A-player SAP rockstar. So how are they going to differentiate you? Because they have to sell you as a strong rockstar leader, okay? How they're going to sell you, your company, and the opportunity. Because more than anything else, imagine you were a candidate on the fence and ask them to sell you on the opportunity. Because a recruiter running around with a bad message about your company is one of the quickest ways to lose your reputation in the marketplace. It's called poisoning the well, and it only makes it harder for you to recruit top talent down the road. I've seen it a million times. When I talk to a candidate and they say, well, David, I'd love to make a move, but not with that client. I've heard bad things, right? They always seem to be recruiting for the same position over and over, and that's concerning. See, it happens, and poisoning the well is a real phenomenon. Now, this list will get you started. Certainly not an exhaustive list, but it is enough to get you started so you can effectively work with a search firm of your choosing. Now, I'm a big believer in opening the hood for the clients and the candidates our industry serves. It's important to me, and it's important to me to give you an inside glimpse into what we do, why we do it, and how it affects your success as a leader, and to give you the tools necessary to navigate what can sometimes be a hiring minefield. Now, if you want to find out more about how you can pick the right firm to work with and how to completely de-risk your hiring decision and consistently hire the top 10% of the SAP talent in the marketplace, and we're talking the people working for your competitors that are not on the market, then click down below and download the SAP Rockstar Blueprint. It's my completely free 99-page mega guide on finally eliminating the mishires, building an elite top-performing team, and crushing all expectations. Now, it goes into much more detail than I went in today in this video, but believe me, it is sorely needed in our industry. Look, if you go to any airport bookstore, you'll find row upon row upon row of business books on mentorship, leadership, marketing, business mindset, but almost none on recruiting and none on hiring top talent in the SAP space. Quite frankly, leaders aren't taught this, and I'm looking to change that. Because imagine, if you could be known as the leader who can consistently field a top 10% team regardless of company, regardless of economic environment, you'll be able to write your own ticket, but it starts right here. Now, if you need additional help, you can also book a call with me directly, and that link is also down below. Now, on that call, we'll assess what you're doing now, what's working, what's not working, and I'll let you know if we can help. Now, even if we're not the right fit, we may not be. We don't work with every client, but I will make sure that you walk away with the right strategies that you can use in your search today. So with that said, thank you for your time. I look forward to chatting with you.